He was just tired, drained from drinking, and all he wanted was to sleep. But something horrifying happened. A strange, fast-moving creature crawled into his ear. Within seconds, it took over his brain. His eyes rolled unnaturally. Then his body jerked up in a bizarre, inhuman motion. When he returned to the party, he wasn't himself anymore. He had become a puppet, completely under the parasite's control. His body twisted unnaturally, and a massive tentacle stretched out from his brain, 10 meters long. Then a woman was gruesomely split in half. Panic erupted. No one could escape as chaos swept through the room. But the true horror hadn't begun. This was only the beginning, because no one knew. This entire city was about to be consumed by parasites. Humanity was walking blindly toward its greatest nightmare. Just 1 hour earlier, Xiu Ren was working his usual shift at the supermarket. Everything seemed normal, until a customer suddenly started arguing with him over a food label. It was trivial, but the man, unstable and furious, threatened to kill him. Xiu Ren didn't take it seriously, but on his way home, he realized he was being followed. Before he could react, the man hit the gas and rammed him to the ground. But that wasn't enough. The madman got out and stabbed him repeatedly. Xiu Ren fought back, barely escaping into the woods, bleeding, collapsing, then blacking out. That's when something fell from the sky. A parasite landed beside his body. When Xiu Ren woke up, he was in the hospital. Strangely, his wounds were gone. No scars, no pain. He thought it had all been a dream. But the police brought chilling news. The man who attacked him had died mysteriously. Multiple stab wounds on his body, but no weapon was found. Time passed. 6 months later, Xiu Ren tried to live normally, but fragments of that night kept flashing in his mind. He couldn't remember anything clearly, but sometimes he heard whispers, saw strangers watching him. It was as if something was always near. Meanwhile, the parasite threat grew. The government intervened, sending in a special task force, the Grey Army. But even they couldn't wipe out the infection. One day, a team leader revealed to the public what parasitized humans looked like. The result? Pure nightmare fuel. People were warned, if you see someone like this, kill them. Immediately. Next day, Xiu Ren was followed again. He ran, heart pounding, and tried to call for help. But before he could dial, the pursuers reached him. He braced for death. But instead, one asked, "Classmate, have you been approved by Meng?" He was confused. Then, suddenly, they transformed, twisting, mutating, monsters in disguise. A man nearby watched in horror, because one of them was his sister. She'd been sick, but had miraculously recovered overnight. Now he understood why. She was already one of them. The parasites invited Xiu Ren to join them, to help spread their species. But Xiu Ren hesitated. He needed time. The man who witnessed it tried to run, but he made a noise. It was too late. They found him. Xiu Ren confronted him. He said, "I'll spare you, but you have to tell me everything." And so, the man revealed the truth. Xiu Ren had been parasitized 6 months ago. The night he was attacked, the parasite tried to take full control, but his body was too damaged. To survive, the parasite used its energy to heal him instead. It didn't have enough power left to reach his brain, so they became one, sharing the same body. Xiu Ren didn't want to believe it, but what happened next was beyond anything he imagined. A beautiful woman led a man into a broken-down, abandoned building. Without hesitation, she began to undress. The man hesitated. The place seemed too sketchy, but the woman's bold move made him drop his doubts. He was ready for action. Then suddenly, strangers barged in from outside. The man was stunned. At first, he thought this was some strange prank, but to his shock, the strangers started discussing where to eat first. The man's heart raced. Something felt terribly wrong. He shouted for help. And right then, a loud blast came from outside the window. Smoke filled the room. The police had been lying in wait. They threw in smoke bombs and opened fire. The monsters were caught off guard. One of them leaped out the window and made a run for it. As it passed a police car, the monster noticed something strange. Inside the car were more of its kind. It realized the police had used a captive parasitic beast to track them. Though it escaped, the authorities had now found the nest. Inside the hideout were corpses, stacked, wrapped, and marked. These marks were codes used by the parasitic beasts. To them, humans were food. But not just that, they possessed human bodies. When they failed to consume the brain completely, the result was a hybrid, half human, half beast. Xiu Ren was one of them. He had been infected by a parasite, but it could only control his mind for 15 minutes a day. The rest of the time Xiu Ren was fully conscious. Only when he was in danger would the beast take over. One day, Xiu Ren met two others of his kind. They saw him as one of them and took him to a church. Since their previous base was exposed, this church had become their new stronghold, and their leader was a pastor. These creatures had come to Earth for one reason: to take over human brains and conquer all of humanity. But the first host had been caught. Humans studied it and began hunting the rest. A war broke out between humans and parasitic beasts. During a secret gathering at the church, a man sneaked in. He was looking for his sister. She had disappeared, and he suspected she'd become one of them. Inside a dark storage room, he found human bodies tied like packages. Suddenly, a parasite entered the room. The man, A Qiang, held his breath and hid behind the corpses. He watched in terror as the parasite's eyes extended 10 meters, searching. But when A Qiang walked past, it didn't notice him. Once the coast was clear, A Qiang saw a familiar face, his sister, but she was dead, killed by the monsters. Devastated, he almost screamed. When the beasts realized someone had broken in, the pastor gave the order: eliminate the intruder. Xiu Ren went along with the others. No one suspected his true nature. Meanwhile, A Qiang had just escaped down the mountain, but he ran into his enemies, the ones who were chasing him. He warned them, monsters are here. They laughed and ignored him. One of them stepped forward to prove him wrong, and was torn apart instantly. A Qiang and his younger brother jumped into a car and fled. But on the road, a cruel truth surfaced. His brother had betrayed him. He was the one who had tipped them off. He pulled out a gun. He wanted to kill A Qiang himself. They fought violently inside the car. The vehicle lost control. It flipped. His brother died on the spot, and the car teetered on the edge of a cliff. Just then, Xiu Ren appeared out of nowhere and pulled A Qiang to safety. But helping a human didn't go unnoticed. The other parasites saw what Xiu Ren had done and turned on him. He had become a traitor. A fierce battle began. But Xiu Ren's parasite was smarter, able to find the enemy's weak spots. After defeating them, Xiu Ren regained control. He had saved A Qiang, but a greater danger loomed. Elsewhere, Team Leader Kui reviewed classified files, and in them, he found Xiu Ren's true identity. She stood frozen as her husband's head split right before her eyes, twisting, tearing, turning into something unrecognizable. Not her husband anymore, just a monster. Without warning, he lunged at her, violent, brutal. She didn't even have time to scream. In pure survival mode, she grabbed a can of poison, darted into the kitchen, and slammed the door shut. The creature followed, but she was quicker, smarter. She hurled the poison, locked the door behind her, and watched as the parasite took full control of the man she once loved. That day changed her, forever. She became Team Leader Choi, a hunter of parasites, a woman with a mission: eliminate every last one of them. Beat her husband was now nothing more than a hound, a parasitic host, caged and used by the police to sniff out his own kind. Soon, team leader Choi had a new target, a girl named Xiu Ren. She had survived a deadly attack unharmed. Too unharmed. Suspiciously unharmed. So Choi watched her, hunted her. Meanwhile, Xiu Ren stayed hidden, unaware that danger was drawing near. She was infected, but the parasite inside her hadn't reached her brain. Not yet. Elsewhere, a boy named A Qiang carried scars of his own. His sister had been killed by a parasite, and then her body was stolen, possessed. Last night, A Qiang and Xiu Ren found the beast's hideout. They barely made it out alive, so they called the police, anonymously. Soon, police units stormed an old house in the mountains. What they found was horrifying. Limbs, bodies, everywhere. This was the nest. Among the chaos, Xiu Ren's uncle, a police officer, found something small, a keychain, one he had given her. Doubt crept in, but he needed confirmation. So, he pocketed the keychain, quietly, unaware. That team leader Choi was watching. The next day, he called Xiu Ren, casually, asking if she'd been to the church. Xiu Ren sensed it, the suspicion. So, he stopped hiding. He invited his uncle to meet, ready to reveal the truth. But it was already too late. Team leader Choi had been tracking them both. 30 minutes later, they met at the amusement park. Xiu Ren hadn't even begun to explain. When Choi arrived, A Qiang saw it coming. He pulled Xiu Ren to run. Fast pace. And then, among the officers, a strange figure appeared, not to help, but to betray. He slipped away, unlocked the car, freed the hound, and pulled out a hidden weapon, a mole planted by the parasites, human, but loyal to them. Meanwhile, Choi chased Xiu Ren, gun in hand, determined to kill, but A Qiang wouldn't let him. Xiu Ren knew his time was running out, so he made a choice. He would lure Choi away, so A Qiang could escape. Alarms blared, but Choi didn't stop. He was locked on Xiu Ren. Back at the car, the hound lay in a pool of blood, stabbed, over and over, by the traitor. He thought no one saw, but A Qiang had turned back, and he saw everything. Now surrounded, Xiu Ren's parasitic form had nowhere to go. 3 heads, 6 arms, still not enough. But something unexpected happened. Xiu Ren began to regain control. Choi returned, only to find the hound's corpse. He swallowed his fury and walked towards Xiu Ren. Ignoring the uncle's pleas, he raised the electric shock helmet, the same one used on the hound, and slammed it onto Xiu Ren's head. Justice, mercy, or something in between. That moment would decide everything. The police were escorting a very dangerous prisoner. But suddenly, a group of scary monsters appeared on the bridge. In an instant, the 2 teams were fighting each other. Right there, on the bridge. The commander, who was in charge of escorting the prisoner, did not panic at all. Because he knew this was a chance to kill all the parasites. But he didn't expect that while they were fighting fiercely, a sneaky man had slipped onto the carriage. It turned out he was trying to save Xiu Ren, because Xiu Ren had not yet been completely controlled by the parasite. If he stayed, or if he ran, he could die at any time. But the remote control of the helmet was with the commander. A Qiang could only wait for the right moment. More and more parasites were appearing. And there were too many people on the bridge. The police had no choice but to fight the parasites while trying to disperse the crowd. But in the face of such fierce monsters, the commander eventually lost. A Qiang took this chance to grab the remote control, but he didn't expect to be seen through. "I don't want to die." Just then, As the fighting grew intense, the commander was attacked by the parasite again. A Qiang finally got the remote, but he was too nervous, didn't know how to use it. He just pressed it randomly, but fortunately, it worked. The special helmet opened. Xiu Ren regained consciousness, and together they rushed into the car, prepared in advance by Uncle Xiu Ren. But it was too late. When the commander realized that Xiu Ren had been rescued, he still had to face the unstoppable monster. In the end, he could only watch as Xiu Ren escaped the scene. Officer Zhang of the police team escorted Uncle to meet Xiu Ren. But halfway through, A Qiang revealed the truth. Officer Zhang was a spy. He had been helping the parasites all along. Xiu Ren sensed something was wrong, and then he saw it. Officer Zhang was moving in the other direction. Suddenly, it clicked. Zhang was going to attack Uncle. Xiu Ren jumped out of the car and ran after him. But he was too late. Uncle had been killed by the parasite leader, and his body was taken over. Xiu Ren, filled with rage, summoned the parasite inside his own body and fought back. But he could only fight alone. On the other side, Officer Zhang was ready to shoot, to assist. Fortunately, A Qiang arrived just in time. Together, they escaped with Xiu Ren. But the parasite didn't follow. He had taken over a new body and needed time to adapt. Uncle's death completely awakened the parasite within Xiu Ren. The woman suspected that her colleague might not be human. So quietly, she took out a pair of scissors and quickly snipped a lock of his hair while he was unaware. But then, the man turned around. He said something completely unrelated to the police. It made her hesitate. She lowered her guard just a little. When everyone stepped out of the elevator, the woman quickly picked up the hair from the ground. She wasn't being sentimental. She was testing if the man was a parasite. Half an hour earlier, Chief Kui received a secret phone call. The message was chilling. A parasite had infiltrated the police station. And worse, their goal was not just humans. They were targeting the mayor himself, who would be attending the People's Day celebration. If they succeeded, they could control all of human society. Though Chief Kui pretended to act normal, he quietly decided to test Officer Zhang. But Zhang's hair showed no abnormalities. Was the intel wrong? Was it fake news? What Chief Kui didn't know was that months ago, the parasite leader had already approached Officer Zhang. But instead of devouring him, he made him an offer. Help me take over the mayor's body, and you'll become my second in command. Refuse, and you die. Officer Zhang had no choice. He became their inside man. Meanwhile, Xiu Ren and Chao were being hunted. They had once been hosts of the parasite, but now they hated them more than anyone. On People's Day, everyone was watching, and in the crowd, Chief Kui spotted Xiu Ren. There was a parasite inside him, but this one was different. He didn't want to hurt humans. Still, Chief Kui was firm. He would rather kill by mistake than let danger live. Xiu Ren pleaded, "Must you kill me? I just want to live. I don't want to hurt you or anyone else." But the parasite leader had already set his sights on the mayor. During the chaos, Officer Zhang pretended to protect the mayor, but halfway through, he unleashed the parasite hidden within him. The bodyguard was killed instantly. The parasite was ready to take over. But Chao's sister arrived just in time. They fought, and while they clashed, Officer Zhang attacked her from behind. Qiao grabbed the mayor and fled. Officer Zhang thought he had done his part, but the parasite had stayed outside his host for too long. Without hesitation, he killed Officer Zhang and took over his body. Again. Then, he hid Zhang's head. No one knew. He had returned. Just as he prepared to strike again, Xiu Ren appeared and rescued the mayor. He told Qiao to run. He would face the parasite leader, alone, though Xiu Ren was also a host. He had never been fully consumed. He didn't want to kill. He didn't want war. But the chief was cunning. He lured Xiu Ren into a mirrored room, reflections everywhere. You couldn't tell where he was, tempting him, mocking him. "Join me," he whispered in the dark. They fought hard. At that very moment, the mayor caught up and aimed his gun, but he didn't know. Officer Zhang was dead. The real enemy stood right in front of him. He aimed at Xiu Ren's head. The parasite inside Xiu Ren closed its eyes. It was ready for death. But then, Chief Kui noticed something in the glass, a reflection. No parasite in Xiu Ren's head. At the last second, he made his choice. He spared Xiu Ren. When his team arrived, he told them nothing. He protected Xiu Ren's secret. That day, Xiu Ren lived again. A Qiang was recruited by Chief Kui into the Gray Unit, and they hoped Xiu Ren would join them too. Because even though the parasite chief was dead, the parasites had not disappeared. In the kingdom of Faishui, more parasites began to appear. And then one day, a man came to Chief Kui. "Who are you?" "Hello, I'm Izumi Shinichi.